Hello and welcome to this special program marking the historic visit of His Holiness Pope Francis, head of the Catholic Church, and His Eminence the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Al-Tayyib, the chairman of the Muslim Council of Elders, to participate in the Bahrain Forum for Dialogue East and West for Human Coexistence under the patronage of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. The ambitious vision and leading initiatives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa led Bahrain to the fore in the countries of the region with positive concepts of peace, coexistence, and human fraternity. With great human heritage, the kingdom addresses the people of the region and the world and creates a robust ground for understanding and harmony among all religions, cultures, and civilizations. More in this report. Welcome back. To talk more about that, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by the Board of Trustees Chairman of the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence, Dr. Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, in the presence of the graduate student of King Hamad Chair in Interfaith Dialogue and Peaceful Coexistence at the Sapienza University of Rome, Maryam Shah. Thank you very much for both of you for being with us here today.
Thank you for having us.
First off, let's start off with you, Sheikh. How did His Majesty the King's vision lay the foundations for the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence?
In fact, His Majesty King Hamad, he who shifted peaceful coexistence and tolerance and freedom of worship in Bahrain to the world. It is now, Bahrain is a model that everybody knows it throughout the world, and based on the real history of the Bahraini people. In fact, that's one very important factor that really His Majesty based his visions for the future of Bahrainis on the history of Bahrain and the real history of his grandfathers. If we talk about the real start, evidence with a lot of documents and manuscripts, it was in 1819 where where Sheikh Salman bin Ahmed has granted the Hindu community the right to establish their own temple. That temple, in fact, is about now over 200 years old. That temple stayed the only temple for the Hindus in the area for over 100 years. Plus, when you talk about the history of the 19th century, we will find that by the end of the 13th century, the American mission were granted by Sheikh Isa bin Ali in 1893 permission to establish their worship place, the church plus the school and the hospital, and so on. So this is very important for His Majesty to base on basing his vision on. So that's why I think it is for Bahrain to continue this spirit, that high spirit that has been laid down by the four the grandfathers of His Majesty the King.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sheikh, one of the main things when we look at the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence, the legacy, the things that they have not only done programs, educational programs, but they have organized forums such as the one that's coming up right now, a very important conference that is coming up. And the dialogue always between religions has always been on the forefront, that dialogue is always the best way in order to solve issues or even bring some kind of clarity to certain issues that are within the world. So, from your point of view, what are the main goals of the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence?
That's right. Before that, His Majesty the King has started this the road to establish a real image of Bahraini model of peaceful coexistence to the world. He started that from 2021, where that was the first, in fact, recognition of Bahrain in the international arena. And in fact, Bahrain at that year recognized the UN resolution to regard that year the year of tolerance and the year of peaceful coexistence and dialogue. Then started really the first conference, and continuing for about 20 years. In fact, in 2008, himself the King, His Majesty the King, participated in a conference or a meeting of a very high standard in the UN. In the General Assembly. That means that he was really keen to establish the international relationship between Bahrain, the religious spirits, and the Bahraini model to the world. That's why today we are in fact, this is a continuation that started from 2001 until today, where we are in fact hosting this very important. It is a continuation. It's not a new. It is a continuation, but the new thing about it is the Pope to participate in such gathering, a very important gathering, and the whole world is really focusing on Bahrain, on that. We are talking about really maybe over 3 billion people throughout the world focusing on Bahrain for the Pope's visit.
Absolutely. Sheikh, one of the things that is a really big deal is that when His Majesty the King sent the invitation to His Holiness the Pope, it was accepted, and immediately everything was turned around in Bahrain for things to prepare for the visit of His Holiness the Pope. Also coming will be His Eminence Dr. Ahmed Al-Tayyib for the conference. How do you value the importance of hosting the Bahrain Forum for Dialogue, East and West for Human Coexistence in the Kingdom of Bahrain?
That's what we always say, that Bahrain deserves the right to have such a position in the map of the peaceful coexistence of the world. I think this is an evidence that everybody recognizes the Bahraini model, recognizes that the people of Bahrain for over 100, 200 years lived for in very peaceful model of life. We never had any problems. And not only this, it is very important to say that we lived in a next door neighborhood of different religions, different sects, and of course origins. So that's why I think it's very important for us to observe that. Bahrain deserves it. Bahrain deserves it. The people of Bahrain deserve it, and His Majesty, the man of peaceful coexistence and tolerance and freedom of worship, also deserves it.
Yes, absolutely. How do you value the royal patronage of the event, which, as you have repeatedly said today, reflects His Majesty the King's keen interest to support and to consolidate not just freedoms and human values, but having the King himself be the main or giving the patronage to this event makes it even a bigger deal than we can see.
It's true. It's as I said earlier, it's continuation of his vision for the future, and I don't think that he would allow this event to go anywhere else for the patronage. It's his views, his thoughts, and this is the future of his young people, and in fact through all the programs that we have, he himself in fact encouraged. Most of them are of his own ideas or his own vision. When you're talking about the Sapienza University and the scholarship of 250 students, that's by itself shows how this man really values the importance of the young people for the future, and his vision was not really confined to Bahrainis or Bahrain only. It is throughout the world. Sapienza scholarship is open for all young people. So this is the chair of His Majesty the King in Italy, but it's open for Europe and the rest of the world.
Yes.
So that's why I think it is very important for us to understand the patronage. It doesn't mean only just to be there attending the opening ceremonies and so on. No, I think he himself values the presence of the Pope Francis III and Sheikh Al-Azhar as well. So those two people have at least, as I said earlier, about 3 billion worshippers behind them.
Of course. You've hit a little bit on the point, the fact that His Holiness Pope Francis, and the education part is very important. We'll go to it in a little bit when we talk to Ms. Maryam, but the attendance of His Holiness Pope Francis, the Pope of the Catholic Church, will contribute a lot to achieving the forum's goals. How will it contribute?
In Bahrain, we have in the center, of course, the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence. We have the Kingdom of Bahrain Declaration. This declaration, in fact, wrote by His Majesty the King through his visions and spirits of peaceful coexistence. It's based on one very simple idea, is the faith, hope for the faith for everyone. So if you have a faith of whatever religion you are, or whatever sects or language or whatever it is, and in fact, if you have a faith and I have a faith, we will never ever conflict, because no faith in the world would ask you to attack other or harm others.
Yes.
So it is this idea of the declaration, and I hope that this event now, whether the Pope and Sheikh Al-Azhar presence, that would realize the importance of the declaration, the Kingdom of Bahrain Declaration, so that it would be it's like a path for the future of humanity.
Yeah, definitely. In performing its role and its duty, the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence deals with several local and international institutions. We talked a little bit behind the scenes about all of the accomplishments that were done with different institutions, with long-term MOUs, as well with conferences that have already been done. So how do you value these kind of cooperations, and how does it contribute positively to the aspired goals that the center has set for itself?
In fact, that's a very good question, because whatever you do, unless you are linked with a very important, very well-established, reputed institutions such as Oxford University, Cambridge University,
Yes.
the UN, especially UNITAR, where we have training, and we signed an MOU lately.
Yes.
With trying to benefit from our, they should benefit from our programs, and as well we learn from their training programs as well. Plus that we have the interfaith program, we have the interfaith leaders as well. We in fact trying to create ambassadors of young people to the world. Those ambassadors are ambassadors of peaceful coexistence, of tolerance, of faith, from the root of the declaration, the Kingdom of Bahrain Declaration. So it is very important for us to recognize these links. So the MOUs that we have signed with very important institutions throughout the world. One of them is really with the State Department in the USA, which is very, very important for an institution like the center to sign these MOUs and agreements.
All right. When we hear all of these international cooperations and MOUs that have been signed, they have been signed over a very long period and short period. This also shows the integrity and the confidence that institutions around the world have put in the center. So the King Hamad Share is also one of the very important and successful achievements of the King Hamad Global Center. The King Hamad Share in Interfaith Dialogue and Peaceful Coexistence is actually a new academic discipline and the first of its kind in the whole world. How did the idea of this initiative come, and what are its aims, and how do you value the received feedback about it until now?
I would leave the details of the scholarships and interfaith programs and cyber academy and the rest to Maryam. She's the expert. She has a first-hand experience
Yes.
of the programs.
Yes.
And I would go to the establishment of such relationship. When you are known in Oxford University and Cambridge University and Sapienza in Italy and USA and some of the universities as well, we have already linked. We didn't sign agreements, but we have a lot of. And we have signed agreements with the other universities as well, in the Middle East and out of the Middle East. These are just few. Anyway, that would give you the real standing in the world. That's what. That's your value when you talk about international arena, international peaceful coexistence values and so on. That's why I think now it is clear that the center is receiving a lot of requests to participate in events and sign agreements, MOUs and so on. This is in fact recognition of the importance of His Majesty, the vision. When we talk about the Kingdom of Bahrain Declaration, and we mention that these are the visions of His Majesty for the peace and peaceful coexistence and the path for peace, road, and and goals, I think that's made Bahrain and His Majesty the King ideals for peaceful coexistence.
Yes, yes. The Sapienza share is very high honor to be a student or to even be part of the Sapienza share itself, and that's why we want to move on to Ms. Maryam. You are one of the first to graduate from the program itself, and what can you tell us about your educational experience, the subjects at Sapienza University, and how did it make you feel? I mean, Sapienza is one of the oldest universities when it comes to the educational curriculum, as well as having this new discipline, and you are going to be one of the, or you are one of the first ones that graduated from it. Just tell us a little bit about your path, how you went, what you went through.
Well, first of all, before I start, I would just like to extend my gratitude to His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, and I also like to express my gratitude to Dr. Sheikh Khalid for enabling us to be a part of such prestigious programs on a global level, really. If we look at the Declaration of the Kingdom of Bahrain, we notice that the first words begin with "ignorance is the enemy of peace." And this is a document that is self-authored by His Majesty, which is his core belief, that in order for us to combat extremism, we need to first educate ourselves, which is why the King Hamad Center offers plenty programs. So the King Hamad Chair for Interfaith Dialogue not only offers one type of educational program, it in fact provides a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD program, along with the unique program, which is the winter and summer school, which I was a part of. We've had bachelor degree students, we've had master's degree students who are now currently studying and going to obtain their PhDs soon in studying documents such as the Kingdom of Bahrain Declaration. And so the program itself, the summer school and winter school, are made in order to enable a vast majority of students to be able to take part in this program, offering them a summer and a winter school program to accommodate for our students from the northern and the southern hemisphere.
Yes.
And this program is open to students from all across the world. They can come to Rome and study this program, which is basically an intensive week-long seminar and a collection of research ateliers by PhD holders and other important figures to discuss various topics such as identifying hate speech in the cyberspace, which is now a growing issue on the global scene. We also discuss shared religious spaces and how to incorporate a diverse community together in order to promote peaceful coexistence. And this is among other topics that we learn pertaining to culture and history and arts as well. And not only do we have a diverse student body of different faith backgrounds, but we also have students that come from different educational backgrounds. We've had students that are art majors, law majors, history and culture, anthropology, and so on. So it's really open to host as many students as it can to share this message and the value of His Majesty the King.
Amazing. I mean, as a student at Sapienza, do you feel that there is a difference in how people perceive students or teachers perceive Bahrain and Bahrain's accomplishment within coexistence, like from the beginning of the share's existence until now? Do you feel that there's a difference?
Well, it definitely sets Bahrain apart from the rest of the world. It puts us on the map. And whenever we took part with students in our breakout sessions, we always get this, we had no idea Bahrain has been doing so much. But I always tell them, it's never us doing too much. In fact, this is how we were naturally raised. I mean, peaceful coexistence, as His Excellency has mentioned, comes naturally to not only the youth of Bahrain, but the Bahraini community. It is so diverse. We have over 19 churches. We have the oldest temple. We have a large community of different backgrounds. So to us, it's just sharing the humble way of Bahraini living with others.
Yes, absolutely. What did you learn from this experience, and how would you spread the knowledge?
I've learned that when you provide a safe space for young people to come together and have that interfaith dialogue, you will notice that we don't only look at our differences, but we also look at our similarities. In fact, we studied the Kingdom of Bahrain Declaration, and many have noticed that there's a humanity in every faith, and the declaration itself covers numerous human rights. And not only as young people, but I believe everyone in the world should have the right to their basic human rights. And so we come together and we discuss this, and we learn how to build a more peaceful world, because we are not the future, we are the present. And in order for us to do that, we have to start now.
Absolutely. His Majesty always has put a lot of weight on the education of future generation of the youth specifically, and to provide different programs and different, let's say, disciplines in order for them to go into. But with every educational path, there's always some kind of challenges. So what were the challenges that faced you during the studying period, and how were you able to overcome them?
Well, when we first heard about the chair, King Hamad chair, when it first launched, it was during coronavirus timing. So it was very sad for us to think that it might be cancelled, but thank God that didn't happen. Sapienza has a very strong initiative on this program, and they managed to create an entire Zoom meeting to include as many students. So although it was a challenge, it was a blessing. But part of the Sapienza program is to experience Rome as a lab for interreligious and a peaceful coexistence, and also religious pluralism. So it was sad for us not to be able to be there in present, physically, but we were there in spirit, and the university did an amazing job to show us and cover as much as they can. So that was the only challenge. But I know the future students will enjoy their time in Sapienza and get to learn more and experience firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing now, talking about it on the media and sharing your experience, is partially a way to introduce future students to how it's going to be, what Sapienza is like, what the King Hamad chair is all about at the end of the line. His Excellency Sheikh Khad also mentioned that the program is open for Bahrainis and non-Bahrainis, for everybody around the world really, to go and apply and be part of that educational path. What do you say to other Bahrainis and non-Bahraini students who are interested in learning more about this field at the chairs?
I highly encourage it. It's because when you expose yourself to different backgrounds, you eliminate the ignorance, because now you have learned about our brothers and sisters and how different communities function. You're not only learning about people through their faith, but faith entails a deeper level of understanding culture, history, and how that shapes a certain community. So we learn about minority groups, we learn about different backgrounds, and that exposure allows you to become a more well-rounded person. We don't really use the word tolerant, but it enables you to become a more coexistent person. You have that embedded into you.
You have more knowledge about other cultures, about other religions, so you're more able to live with them and understand why certain things are done a certain way.
Precisely.
Perfect. So from your point of view, how can this kind of teaching and learning experience enrich the perspectives of students and expand their aspects of knowledge?
Well, from what I've seen, and I've noticed this about students, they come in from the beginning, and it's a very transformative program, in fact. When you first come in, there are so many questions, but because we provide them with that safe space, they have curiosity, which is natural to the youth. It comes naturally to us. And so they are eager to learn about one another, not only to look at similarities, but also understand differences and how we can work together. So having that exposure, again, is key to having a well-diverse, coexistent community.
Yes. If I am not wrong, you are also one of the trainers that will be training, and that is a big deal by itself, because you having the experience that you have, you being or going through the experience, and also now training other students, and you'll be training a new upcoming line of people that want to be a part of this movement. What are your upcoming plans to continue this very special educational journey for yourself and for your students?
Well, we are very proud to have over 40 students who are now ambassadors to His Majesty, sharing his vision all across the world. And I am looking forward to our latest program, which is the King Hamad Cyber Peace Academy. His Majesty is not only proactive when it comes to education, but he's also up to date with current events. And as we know, cyber attacks and radicalization of youth online has been a very serious issue, especially during COVID when students transferred online. Cyberbullying and hate speech numbers have been grown like there was no tomorrow. So in order for us to shape the future generations, we have to teach them about proper usage of cyberspace and making it a safe haven for everyone. So this program brings together students as young as 8 years old, along with people who are in position of shaping their society, such as leaders, diplomats, academics, and teachers. And they will be presented with real-life scenarios of hate speech and radicalization and cyber terrorism, for instance, and they will work together. So it serves as a platform for them to come together and learn how to solve these issues in a more amicable way.
Amazing, amazing. Sheikh Khalid, going back to you in a little bit, in a published statement you said that the chair is a real step forward towards fighting ignorance and noted the importance of knowledge, education and culture in fostering stability, coexistence and prosperity. How can other countries benefit from Bahrain's experience in this regard specifically?
In fact, our main goals in the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence is to reflect the real life of the Bahrainis of peaceful coexistence. We would like to tell the world that other countries that this is the way to do it, and they are, it is very simple, very straightforward. And through what Mariam was saying earlier, that through the ambassadors, we have over 40 ambassadors ready now to go, and we have already signed some agreements. I think maybe the first step would be Brazil, for instance. Yeah. But anyway, throughout the world, we are having those our ambassadors to go. Those ambassadors of peaceful coexistence. They represent His Majesty the King, the ideas, the vision of His Majesty for the peaceful coexistence. So this is the road to establish a good relationship and to influence other countries to regard Bahrain as a model and learn, and we are open. And this is costing a lot of a lot of finance, money, and so on to train the students and the trainers. But it is our goal, and it's based on the declaration of the Kingdom of Bahrain, and this is the main vision of His Majesty. I mean, when you talk about those Sapienza and talk about the chair, King Hamad chair in Sapienza, we are talking about a man who would like to spend not only just money, but also spend spirit to the young people, to make them ready to go out in their countries and teach how to live peacefully.
Definitely. The Kingdom of Bahrain's experience in this regard is a successful one, and that's why it being a template is very important. The ambassadors, the students that have graduated, the people that have worked in Sapienza and know about the program are really the ones that are spreading the knowledge and how successful it was. From your point of view, Sheikh, what is the importance of spreading the awareness of religious freedom and peaceful coexistence among the global societies in general and to the youth in particular, the future?
Well, we are not living in this world alone.
Yeah.
We are living with other countries, and if the other countries, neighbors or whatever, have problems, have civil wars and conflicts, and it is not far. Actually, in the Middle East, we do have that. Very close countries. So it is not far from. That's why we have a mission that to convey this message to those countries, to those people, and to ask them to come and see how we do it, how we can live peacefully without as His Majesty laid in his declaration, faith. We will tell them, come and have faith in your whatever God is. Yeah. So I think this is very important for us, and this is the way to do it. We wish that all the countries, it's a mission, all the countries have the same way of our life.
Definitely. One of the things when we were when preparing for the forum and the topics that will be discussed, Topics that will be discussed are actual problems that happen or challenges within the world that are not pertaining to religion but rather to people. So for instance, food security and other topics that will be discussed are issues when you have the religious entities discussing them, they are everybody's issues and problems. So from your point of view, what can you tell us about the leading initiatives of King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence, not just for this conference, but really in the future to spread this knowledge and unify the efforts of thinking about problems that have nothing to do with religion, but have to do with a better life?
Well, this conference is really, as I said earlier, a continuation of a path that Bahrain has taken since 2001. And so many conferences, one of them is 2002, I think, there was a dialogue between Islam and Christianity, and so on. This is the way we are moving forwards. And we are getting on the way, getting a lot of support from other countries, from other communities, and from other societies. And I think we are achieving a lot. If you look at the life of the King Hamad Center, it's not much. We're talking about 4 or 5 years, but we have achieved a lot. We have reached very far in goals, very far away.
Yeah, definitely. Mariam, we've gotten almost to the end of the show. Just before we ask this last question to you, the Pope's visit is going to be a changing moment for a lot of people, not just from the Christian community on the island and in the region, but really for everybody who is following this forum and what will be happening. From your opinion, how is His Holiness the Pope's visit going to change the perspectives or going to help in elevating that knowledge of faith and belief in different religions and tolerance and coexistence?
I believe this is a monumental moment in history, really. I mean, we have His Eminence, His Holiness the Pope, and the Sheikh from Al-Azhar. When you see that collaboration of giants together from both sides, we have Christians and Muslims, and if the top leaders are coming together and coexisting with one another, I believe that is inspirational for the youth to continue with the same path, that we should in fact collaborate.
Yes.
We should come together. We should discuss these issues that matter not just to certain groups, but to all of us as a human race.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. I mean, I see how the youth of today, seeing that this is happening within our time now, they have really the template. This happened during our time while we were during our education. So for the youth, I mean, His Holiness the Pope will be visiting with Sacred Heart School and some of the youth, and he always visits actually with the youth whenever he's in a different country. And so do you feel like that is an important cornerstone in order to further this awareness?
Of course, because once the youth are aware of such figures and their purpose of coming and visiting, it opens their eyes to future potentials and what could be.
Definitely. Sheikh, before we end today's show, what can you tell us about the upcoming projects and the future plans? We know that there are many in the way coming, but what can you tell us about anything futuristic coming now?
Well, luckily we don't really have a certain program that we are very much open to the new ideas, and they change every day. Yeah. And that's why we have. I can tell you of a conference by the end of this month, or next month, or before the end of the year. Yes. There will be at least two conferences, international conferences. Some of them are not in Bahrain, but we are organizing them. But even though that doesn't mean, or that doesn't limit us with those conferences and those meetings and those whatever activities we have. We are very much open, and as Bahrain, it is open country. We are also open to all the ideas and whatever comes for the interest of Bahrain and for the interest of the humanity. We will take it.
Yes. A lot of the agreements that happened, like Sapienza University, we also talked about the Faith and Leadership Program. We talked about agreements with Oxford and other universities. You've mentioned universities in the US and different ones. But also there are very important agreements that happened recently. So what can you tell us about these future plans and agreements?
In fact, we have signed agreements with the universities in Israel, Haifa University and Hebrew universities. These are Hebrew University was established in 1925. Wow. It's a very old university. It's one of the oldest in the Middle East, in fact. Very well known, very high academic standard throughout the world. That's because we believe we are open to the world. We in fact don't distinguish between religions, between states, and we were in fact in the beginning we were very happy that that Bahrain has signed the peace accord. Yeah. That opened the road for us to include the Jewish communities within Bahrain or out of Bahrain.
Yes, definitely. The Abraham Accords were a very big step for the future, and not just on a political point of view, but also an educational one. What can you tell us about your points of view on the opening of this program?
Well, part of the training for ambassadors when they go out and educate students from around the world is a language program. So I've currently been taught Hebrew. I'm at level 3 right now.
Oh, beautiful.
And the center is very encouraging of teaching languages to its ambassadors, and we are very grateful for that.
Okay, perfect. Sheikh, now final words from you before we end today's show on the upcoming event, on His Holiness's visit.
The Pope's visit to Bahrain has been planned since a long time, and he agreed because of the standing of peaceful coexistence, the freedom of religion, the freedom of worship for the Christians, non-Christians, and he found that lately, of course, His Majesty the King donated the land for the Catholic communities, and of course the establishment or the build of Lady of Arabia Cathedral.
Yes.
These are all indicators that has, in fact, pushed His Eminence to come and visit Bahrain, to help to understand how Bahrain is living and how Bahrain is a model. His visit tells the world that Bahrain is a peaceful country. Bahrain is a country respecting all the religions. There is a freedom of worship in the government itself, and His Majesty, the ruler of Bahrain, in fact, helps in establishing worship places for all. And that's what I mean by saying his visit, of course, it's an indicator for everyone who has a little bit of doubt, and you know what I mean.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sheikh Khalid, Board of Trustees, Chairman of the King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence, Dr. Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, for being with us today. And we'd also like to thank you, the graduate student of King Hamad, Chair in Interfaith Dialogue and Peaceful Coexistence at Sapienza University, Ms. Mariam Shah, for being with us today and giving us all this extra information. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Both the visit of His Holiness Pope Francis and holding the dialogue forum are within Bahrain's keenness and firm strategy to build bridges between leaders of religions and further cement the values of peace and human coexistence among different cultures. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching, and goodbye.